Hypermobile People Problems, Childhood Edition.
Because the only people we treat worse than hypermobile adults are hypermobile children. If you know me, you know I hate growing pains. Do growing pains exist? Yes, I can accept that that's the mechanism through which bones grow. However, as someone whose job literally involves talking with children and adults about their musculoskeletal health day in, day out, I can tell you for a fact that not every child has pains that make them cry themselves to sleep at night. A lot of these children who have growing pains, and a common thing will be a pain deep within the knee, like a deep, deep ache, they go on to become adults with chronic knee pain. And what I find ridiculous is that the growing pains at some magical age just turn into chronic pain, or like the person's a hypochondriac or whatever, which makes me think they're not growing pains if the person has them into adulthood because they're not growing anymore. Point two, not having normal poops. The question I normally ask when I do a medical history is, tell me what your experience of using the bathroom is like. Then I'll often talk with the patient briefly about constipation and diarrhea. And then I'll typically ask the patient, do you feel like you've ever had a normal time in the bathroom? And because it's such a weird question, the patient will usually think for a minute and say, actually, no, my whole life I've had issues with either one or the other, but I've never had a normal number 2 experience. I remember being really surprised the first time I saw the poop chart, you know, the one with the different like types and the diagrams. I was shook to see what normal was supposed to be compared to my experience. This is because the gut is basically a tube of connective tissue with a bunch of autonomic nervous system functions, and it becomes a hot mess if you're someone who has HEDS or HSD. School is hard for hypermobile people. And I say that as someone who loved school. Like, I got hyped for back to school commercials. Anyway, if you're a hypermobile person, you might remember sitting in school and resting your head on your hand because your head just felt really heavy. In theory, sitting up isn't hard, but it's hard for hypermobile people because you have to do a lot of stabilization through your neck, and your head can feel heavy and you can have neck pain, and it sucks. Last but not least, being told you hold a pen incorrectly. Let's just make all the little hypermobile children sad. Honestly, in my little fantasy land, we would have people like teachers trained to look for some signs of hypermobility in children, like that inability to hold a pen correctly because the joints in the fingers hyperextend.